The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Alan Blumkin. I'm here with my good friend David Nemec. And we're here for another session of David Nemec's baseball history and trivia. Welcome, David.
My pleasure to be with you again, Al.
It's always my pleasure also. Okay, since you want to talk about a specific topic, why don't you start?
Well, what I thought we could talk about today, and it's been hashed around and thrashed around and harped on already by most writers, fans, and so forth, are the things about the game that are disappearing. The rule changes, and as a result, certain things, certain kinds of events that used to be part and parcel of a normal baseball game just don't take place anymore. And I thought we could talk about some of the things about it we're going to miss next year. And one of the things I'm going to miss, bizarrely as it might sound, is these fantastically exaggerated shifts, because I think it's an abomination that they're doing away with these shifts rather than forcing batters to learn to hit to the opposite field and to bunt. I mean, it's just crazy to allow them to resume their normal go for broke swings, and it's only going to increase strikeouts. It may increase batting averages. I'm sure it will increase some, but it's just giving in to players in ways that shouldn't be done. Imagine if you try to impose this rule any time before the 1920s. It would be ridiculous. You can't. There weren't any shifts. There weren't any shifts that have been, that have been notated anyway. There was the Williams shift was supposedly the first shift, but it wasn't Ted Williams. It was Ken Williams and Cy Williams in 1922, who were both left-handed pull hitters. Supposedly there were shifts brought into play by certain teams against both of them. Ken was in the American League with the Browns, and Cy at that time I think he was still with the Cubs, or he may have been with the Phillies by then. And they both were dead pull hitters and home run hitters and significant hitters. But the shift has always been part of baseball. That's been part of baseball. That to outlaw it so that batters can take their normal swing and get away for their entire careers without learning two basic things that always are part and parcel of baseball: learning how to hit to the opposite field and bunting.
Forget that. Huh? Yeah, a lot of them will never learn because they don't come up from the minor leagues with those skills.
No, they don't
spend time. They don't spend time in the minor leagues.
Yeah, it's. I saw a playoff game a few years ago. I think it was at Tampa Bay and Houston. I'm not sure what year. I can't. It's been at least 2 or 3 years. And a Tampa Bay hitter up. I think it was their second baseman. I don't remember all the details, and I think the third baseman was the Houston third baseman, Arenado, and Tampa.
Arenado was on the Rockies and the Cardinals.
Okay, well, who was the third baseman for Houston? And
Bregman.
Oh, Bregman. Okay, that's who it was. It was Bregman. Okay. That's clear. Okay, so I really get some of these guys confused. Okay, well, Bregman was on third base, and a bum was dropped on the third baseline, and he had no idea what to do with it. I mean, he treated it as if it were a hand grenade. At first, he tried to blow it, and he tried to take his hand and without pushing it, try to repel it out of foul territory by just, with the force of the breeze created by his hand. Then he looked like he was about to kick it into foul territory and kick it down the line, which would have made it a fair ball automatically, and may have ended up in, it wouldn't have been an inside park home run. And I'm sure the scorer would have given Bregman an error at the very least. And but it was crazy. He didn't. Bregman didn't know how to handle it. The batter put it down, and it was just an unreal experience to watch that. And it was a pleasure. On the other hand, there was a game you watched. I know you watched it, and I watched it because I'm a Cleveland fan, and you're a Yankees fan. Where Steve Kwan, Cleveland rookie left fielder, stood at the plate, first batter of the game. It was in Yankee Stadium. And I'm pretty sure he is in Yankee Stadium. And the very first pitch of the game, turned around, squared as if he's going to bunt, and nobody believed him. And he dropped down a bunt, and he got a single. And I think the game before, I think it was in New York. It was the second game. And the game before, he led off with a home run. So the guy, here he is, turning around to square the bunt, the first pitch of the game. And nobody takes him seriously. He gets an easy base hit on a ball that would have, if the second baseman had been playing in a normal position, and even the first baseman, towards first base, come on with a left-handed hitter, beat it out easily. And why we didn't see more of that, I don't know. But there's so few guys who are willing to do that and wreck their swings. That is, they better hit into a line drive out to a second baseman who's playing about 20 feet deep in right field. And it's just insane that the baseball caved into this and has taken away an important dimension of the game. It's always been, they
want to bring up the averages because people have been complaining that all you get right now are strikeouts, walks, and home runs, basically.
Well, so you'll have more base hits.
Yeah, and the lack of play with runners on base or play in the field or anything like that, because it's walks, strikeouts, and home runs. Yeah,
so there'll still be walks and strikeouts and home runs. That's it. It won't change the fabric of the game, and in that respect. But it'll certainly change the nature of the game and what players should have to learn in order to become major league players. And it's crazy, and And I also saw something in the Yankees Cleveland series. You probably saw it too, and I actually blinked when I saw it. I saw Hedges, the Cleveland catcher, step out for a pitch out.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen, I'm sure you remember that too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a pitch out in years. And that was always, you'd see several every game. Even during the 50s when stealing was rare, very few guys could, would steal more than 8 or 10 bases a year. And but pitch outs was very much part of the game. And
so was the pitching for the intentional walk. That's how they managed to save time. The solution to making games shorter was to waive the intentional walk. Which is
another insanity.
Yeah.
Because
I saw Don Mueller on a game, in the 50s with the Giants get a hit off of an intentional walk. What pitcher was supposed to be an intentional walk?
Yeah, I haven't been able to document this. There's a kid, I think I saw a Cleveland game where Boudreaux, who was not in the game, came up as a pinch hitter. He was player manager. I think it was in 1948. And they were going to intentionally walk him. The first base was open, and rather than face him, and Boudreaux had a huge year there. He had 350 something. And when Boudreaux saw what they were going to do, he actually threw his bat at a pitch and hit it into right field and got a base hit on it. stuff like that happen, and it was so much fun to see that kind of stuff happen. And now it's taken away, and the game I think has become much more humdrum.
Yeah, well, basically, people listening to this think we're curmudgeons.
They do, yeah.
I know,
they
yeah.
Almost they laugh at it.
I know that, yeah. And and baseball doesn't market to people in our age bracket.
No, they don't. They don't. They really don't care. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. We don't have corporate boxes. We're not.
We don't buy into the analytics. Sabre is advertising their analytics conference in March, and for the privilege in Phoenix. So the privilege of members paying $395 plus hotel and food and transportation, you can go 3 days. Go there for 3 days listening to analytic presentations. When they came out last year because of the pandemic, it was virtual, and I took a look at the topics. I went to less than 2 seconds in any of them.
I can't. $395
yeah.
is what they're asking. It's incredible. And and the Sabre publications are riddled with this kind of analytical stuff. And the conclusions usually are, we've done this great analysis. Look at how important it seems, but actually its significance is still questionable. So that's usually the conclusion they come to. And
the people I talk to regularly, I have certain friends I talk to almost on a daily basis, and we all believe in the eye test. You can tell by looking at a player for a month whether he can play or not.
Yeah.
Or a season, whether he can play or not. You have to, a defensive run saved and all the rest of this crap. That they put out the WAR, which I think is totally flawed.
Oh yeah.
Because if a player like Ohtani is on a team is a star player, it's on a team that stinks, whoever replaces him is going to be not very good, and so he's going to have a higher WAR.
Exactly.
Hold on, I think the pharmacy is. Hold on for a second.
Sure.
Okay, I'm back. They never call before they come.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so, they buzz downstairs. Yes, they buzz downstairs, and I never call before. And so anytime somebody buzzes me here, and there's no name or anything given, I know it's the pharmacy. So I dropped the stuff off, and that's where I'm back. Okay, where were we?
We were talking
about the intentional walk.
We got, but past that, we were well into stuff we're going to miss.
Yeah.
And starting next season, and there's stuff that should have been taken out of the game long before now, that they allowed it to remain in the game for years and years and years. One thing, were home plate collisions and the horrible injuries that guys suffered, Buster Posey's injury and other stuff like that, Roy Fosse's.
Yeah.
They were completely unnecessary. And they didn't bother about that kind of stuff because it didn't save any time. So a guy got hurt, so what? All right. There's something you can put a substitute in.
Well, after Posey was injured like that, they put in the rule now. That's why basically they reverse almost every, anytime a runner slides into home plate with a catcher there, the runner seems to be safe. They rule him out because he interfered with the catcher or whatever.
But how do you feel about the enlarged bases?
Oh, God, yeah. When was the last time they did this? In the 19th century?
Well, they do it when I know I played it in over 60 softball league where they did it, and that's what that baby baseball is heading toward. That I don't know, but they did it to avoid collision at first base and moved had two different home plates and so forth.
What's it now going to be 88 feet between first and second?
Yeah.
Second and third, and third and home.
Yeah. So basically, things that were, actually, been part of the game since. Actually, the bases really never were precisely 90 feet all the way around. Actually, I think it was Bill Dean that first pointed this out. That if you do the actual measurement from one corner of the base to the next base and so forth, it's not really exactly 90 feet. But the thought was there to make them 90 feet apart. Now it's no longer there. They're no longer 90 feet apart. There's no pretense about it. They are what they are. And I'm not quite sure what they hope to accomplish by this. I mean, I'm really not. Is it for more stealing, or is it for closer plays? Or
I think I think the umpires are having problems when there's, especially at first base.
Yeah, well, first base, there's a lot of close calls.
Yeah, because there's a lot of close calls, and if the team that doesn't like the call, they'll challenge it and ask us for a review and put another 10 minutes on the game.
Yeah, but there's still going to be reviews, and the base is going to be so large now that the first baseman can be touching one corner, and the runner can be touching in a completely opposite corner at the same time, and it'll something. I don't know what they're going to do with it.
Flip a coin.
I don't think umpires are in favor of this rule.
There's some really one thing in the old days is that they used, if an umpire was consistently terrible, they could get rid of him. Now they can't.
Yeah.
I mean, this Angel Hernandez, every year he leads the league in reverse calls, the majors in reverse calls. He's always the lowest rated. He actually had the temerity to sue baseball because they wouldn't give him a crew chief position because he was Latin. That guy's terrible. There are a couple others that are not quite at his level, but are pretty bad. And they can't get rid of them because of the union. And when they come to a signing postseason, they've got to rotate.
They have to rotate?
Yeah, they have to rotate, yeah.
How bad
it's not like Bill Clem umpiring 30 World Series behind home plate anymore.
Yeah. All right, boy.
But they rotate, and unfortunately, you didn't see Angel Hernandez in any either LCS or the World Series. So maybe he was doing one of the wild card rounds.
Baseline, maybe the outfield foul line. Yeah, but we may be talking about a part of the game that will no longer be part of the game in a couple more years, and that's home plate umpires. And I think they probably are going to go to the mechanized calling balls and strikes.
Well, how about the mechanized signals the way you have it now? I've seen games stop because the signal, the catcher has a signal the thing in his mitt, and it wasn't working for one reason or another.
Oh.
I've seen this. I saw this happen a few times.
That I haven't seen, but I know that I have.
It's ridiculous.
I know. It's ridiculous that they can wear this paraphernalia. That. I don't think it should be part of the game. I really don't. I think that you can give a signal to your, the catcher can give a signal, or somebody could give a signal on the team to what kind of pitch the defensive team, what kind of pitch.
Yeah, well, I am in favor of the pitch clock because You had certain pitches, particularly for me, was Lance McCullers Jr. on Houston. You could eat a three-course meal between his pitches.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I agree with that too, and I agree with the number of times the batter can step out of the box, and otherwise you have guys like Hargrove. If they ever got back in the game, they could really throw a wrench.
I watched a video a couple of years ago. It's on YouTube of Game 7 in the 1952 World Series. And Gil McDougall stepped out of the box once. That was the only time in the whole game a batter stepped out of the box.
Is that?
Yeah.
I can believe it because I never gave that a thought. I really haven't given that a thought, but I remember as a kid, you certainly didn't see anybody stepping out of the box with just their gloves or other paraphernalia or ankle braces or knee, elbow, whatever they were wearing. And it's you're right. You're right. In fact, in the early game, you took a risk if you stepped out of the box because the pitcher wasn't required to stop. The pitcher wanted to pitch, and you wanted to step out of the box. You had to get out of the box and get out of the box and back in the box in a hurry because he wasn't required to take any time between pitches. Back in the 19th century, as soon as the ball was returned to the pitcher, he was free to wing it right back in. And Ed Morris and Fred Carroll were a battery with Pittsburgh in the 80s, and a very good battery. There was just absolutely no time between pitches. I think Morris pitched without a glove. And Carroll received the glove he had a rudimentary glove, and he'd bring it right back to Morris. Morris would catch it with his left hand. He was already in motion when he caught it, and the pitch came right back in. There's no such thing as a quick pitch or anything like that. I think that I'm not sure what year the rule was put in. There had to be some sort of delay to give the batter a little bit of time to recoup after the previous pitch before he had to face another one. But
my friend Tom Zacco absolutely hates the DH. He was very unhappy when the National League brought that in. With the last CBA, which I told them that when they had the next collective bargaining agreement, the one I think was passed last year, eventually that the DH would come to the National League. He used to give out Red Roughing Awards to the pitchers who had the best hitting pitchers in each league.
Yeah. Well, it was.
The American League, of course, is 50 years already. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and it's. I was kind of indifferent to the DH at first, and then when David Ortiz came along, I became really opposed to it. I mean, here's a guy that wouldn't even have been in the major leagues more than a couple of years if the DH hadn't been in existence when he came up, because he wasn't that great a hitter when he first came up, and there was no place to hide him in the field.
The first DH, full DH that they put into the Hall of Fame was Edgar Martinez from Seattle.
Yeah. And now Ortiz is gone, and Molitor DH a lot.
And so did Frank Thomas.
Yeah, Frank Thomas
with the White Sox. Yeah.
There really should be a limit on the amount of a career. You should have to play a certain number of games in the field for position players. If you don't play the minimum number of games, you're not eligible for the Hall of Fame, period. And that should be a rule. And
if they had the DH in 1954, Dusty Rhodes would have played every game.
Yeah, at the Polo Grounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the road, you would have almost never seen him, probably. But yeah, and yeah, you can look back at Charlie Keller. Remember Keller toward the end of his career was strictly a pinch hitter because his back was so bad he couldn't play the field. He probably would have lasted as a DH for several more seasons if he didn't have to play the field. And Charlie Keller was a tremendous player before his back did him in, and he can only serve as a pinch hitter. And
well, you have others in that category: Ted Kluszewski, Don Mattingly. Yeah. Players that the backs did them in. But one of the things with Tony Oliva is that he was winning his third batting title in 1971 when he tore his knee up. He hardly played in 1972. And when they put the DH in the American League in 1973, he played 4 seasons as a DH.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't nearly the hitter he was before the injury, but it got him enough playing time to eventually get into the Hall of Fame list year.
I was glad to see him get in because he played in an era where it was almost impossible.
The hitting was terrible. I call it dead ball two. That era, from 63 to 68, I call it dead ball 2.
Yeah, it was that.
And I cut some slack. Yeah, I cut slack for hitters that weren't their peak during that period of time. Like Van Pinson and a few others like that that they peaked during that period. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at other sports besides baseball. I'm trying to think if there's anything equivalent to the shift that which allows players to hit the way they want to hit, pull as much as they want, and not be penalized in any way.
Well, in basketball, they did away with the hand check on defense. And in football, they put in all sorts of rules to protect the quarterback.
But not the rest of the players. Yeah, and it's as a result. It's hard to watch pro football anymore. It really is. And unfortunately, we have to say this about all the major pro sports. That I don't know. Hockey, I don't think hockey has made any.
I don't watch hockey. I stopped following. I stopped following when they went from 6 to 12 teams. 55 years ago. When there were 6 teams, I followed. I knew everybody. It's the same thing now. I got 32 teams, and I could maybe 5 hockey players in the entire league.
Yeah, I like to watch the game, but you're right, you can't follow it. Yeah.
No, I can't follow basketball either that closely because there's 30 teams, and you got many Edwin Jacksons. Edwin Jackson has the record for playing for 14 teams in the major leagues. You have basketball, you have guys like that.
But baseball is where I really feel the pain the greatest. The things that were part of the game that are missing.
Well, you think Joey Gallo, for example, who strikes out 40% of his plate appearances, has a career batting average after 7 years of 199, has 2.5 times as many strikeouts as hits. And they paid him $10 million last year. You think this guy is going to change?
Why would he? No.
No, a lot of these guys say, "Hey, I'm making millions of dollars doing what I'm doing. Why should I improve?" You have players that you have players that have no ambition to improve. You have players that are comfortable playing for teams that stink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's.
And when these people start touting Mike Trout as one of the greatest players in baseball history, the guy's played in 1 playoff series.
Yeah, you can't penalize him strictly for that. Although
but the teams, it's much easier for a very good player. It's much easier to hitter. it's much easier to produce for a team that stinks because there's no pressure.
Yeah, well, it is. And at a certain point, a point did come in Trout's career where he could have moved on and gotten as good of money from another team, and he chose not to. And the Angels, I don't see the Angels being any better this year. I don't see any reason they would be.
Pudge Rodriguez was the catcher for the 2003 Marlins who won the World Series. He became a free agent and went to the Tigers, who in 2003 were 43 and 119.
Yeah.
They're one of the all-time terrible teams that nobody remembers.
Yeah.
If I was still writing trivia contests, I'd use them a lot.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. No, I don't know, but there are some things that other sports. There are things I miss too that are gone, but nothing on the order of baseball. But one thing that I may have been the last to see, or among the last to see, is a place kicker who kicks from head on Mike Mosley.
That was the last one. Yeah.
He was the last one. I think I saw him play his last regular season game. He played for Cleveland, and he won an overtime game in the final game of the season with a field goal. And Cleveland then met the Raiders. It wasn't the Raiders, another team. That was a bit. Cockcroft was the kicker when they psyched through the interception.
Cockcroft, I think, was the last of the double duties.
Yeah.
Because he did the punting and the place kicking, which you never see anymore.
And
I have a very good friend of mine who hates all place kickers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hates when teams play for field goals, and he hates when a team can't do anything, they bring in a field goal kick, he kicks 155 yards, and they win the game. And he says that they should have. And I said, I agree with him. I said they should try this out in a couple of exhibition games, maybe. Preseason. Where they don't use any place kickers at all except for extra points.
I think what they should do is narrow the goalposts. I really do in pro football. I think that make it really a difficult.
Well, they moved it back. The extra point used to be like from the 10-yard line when they had to post for a number of years, at the goal line, and that was a disaster. They moved it back.
Well, I don't. It wasn't a disaster at the goal line. It's it was part of the game, and quarterbacks learned to use it, utilize it, and receivers did too. It was like an extra defender if you wanted it to be, or it could be like an extra, blocker. There were strategies when using those goalposts, and I kind of missed it. I didn't think they should change it, but for safety reasons, I think that it's probably necessary to do. But I did like the goalposts.
Well, baseball basically is not. I think they were toying before last season, toying with the idea of lengthening the pitcher's mound, and
that would have been a terrible mistake.
I said, what are they going to do? This has been in place since 1893.
I know.
They're going to stop playing games with this? Yeah.
Kids are coming up. In the 90s when they changed it, it really wasn't a move from 50 feet to 60 feet. It was really only a move of about 5 feet in distance from where a pitcher was when he started his delivery as to where he finished it. It wasn't that great, but it was great enough so that it did ruin some careers, and it forced younger pitchers who hadn't started their major league careers yet to reconfigure how they were going to deliver the ball. And as a result, hitting really increased. It jumped up big time. in 93, 94, 95. But by 96, 97, 98 in the 19th century, we were already starting to edge into the dead ball era. And pitchers learned quickly to adjust to the new distance. So that by the turn of the century, the younger pitchers were, had been pitching from that distance all their careers, and they were,
Well, I read a biography of. I read a biography of Cy Young years ago, which said that Cy Young hated every pitching rule change, but he adapted during his career.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. No, he had a phenomenal career.
And he didn't hit the source very often, so he had a farm which he kept in shape over the winter and over the off season. And he wasn't an imbiber, which a lot of them were back then.
Yeah, I think if the money had been there then, I think he would have run on another 4 or 5 seasons. John City was still pitching in his 50s in the minor leagues and pitching very well. I think Young would have been another one if the salary had been anything like what they became once Ruth arrived on the scene. I think Young would have stuck around.
Well, Kid Nichols spent 2 years in the American Association in minor league and cost himself 400 wins, and hardly anybody even knows who he is anymore.
I know. It's a shame. It's a shame too, because a good case can be made that the pitcher in the '90s, who was the best, who you want to have on your team first and foremost, was not Cy Young and not Amos Lucy. Even if Lucy had pitched every year, instead of having to sit out in contract battles, it would have been Kid Nichols. I think overall Nichols was the most effective pitcher in the '90s.
Yeah, Sabre. Listen to this. Sabre puts out an email every Friday with all the updates on what's happening, blah blah blah. And they list the new members. So I always look to see new members if I recognize any names. One of them on this list that came out today was Tim Keefe.
Tim Keefe.
Yeah.
I got that list. Wait a minute. Yeah. Well, yeah. Right. Yeah. How many members does Sabre have now?
I have no idea. I renew a year at a time now because of the age. I know. Because if I renewed for 3 years, if I renew for 3 years, I'd save $4.
Yeah, no, it's not a big savings.
No. I think all the analytics crap I just go right through. I don't even pay attention to any of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
at one time they gave me a journal to edit, and I went through historical stuff very quickly. And I had all this mathematical stuff, and I turned it back. I said I couldn't even do this stuff in high school.
No, it's unreadable. It's impossible.
I know, yeah.
And half of every publication is filled with it. And they really should they almost should have separate chapters. The analytical chapter and. Baseball,
and unfortunately, to the people who are not in, sabermetrics gives the impression that everybody in the organization is an analytical, as I used to call them, stat heads.
Yeah, which is not true. But unfortunately, it's certainly heading that way. Judging from the publications, anyway. I don't get to enough conventions anymore to really see what's happening.
I can't go. I mean, the last one I went to was in Pittsburgh 4 years ago, and they're having the Negro League Conference this year in beautiful Detroit.
Well,
Detroit, outside of Tampa, which hasn't been around that long. Detroit's the only major league city that Sabre has never had a national.
They never? Is that true?
No. They never had. There's never been a national in Detroit.
Well, that's really strange because Detroit was up until way past expansion. Detroit was really a major city. Now that the population in Detroit is down around Cleveland. I mean, both cities were among the top 10. And Cleveland was like number 5, and Detroit was way up there with it.
Well, now you got the Texas cities. You got Florida cities. You got Texas cities. You got California. You got Arizona. You got Seattle. I mean, it's.
Cleveland is now. They really are small market teams.
Yeah.
Cleveland and Detroit, definitely small market.
And Pittsburgh is very small market.
Minnesota, small market. Pittsburgh, definitely small market. Yeah.
Cincinnati.
I can't find a reason that you can call the Chicago White Sox a small market team or the Cubs, but somehow they're in the Central Division, and I guess somebody has to be there. So it's got to be the 2 Chicago teams. But but St. Louis is even in a small market now, and it's crazy.
But they have no football, basketball there.
Yeah, I know, and
they sued over the Ram move from St. Louis to Los Angeles, and they got paid a ton of money. But one of the provisions is that they had to give up the rights to expansion franchise. Well, it's 32 teams, and one of the things I'm very afraid with baseball is if they bring in 2 more teams, make it 32, you're going to have 8 4-team divisions the way the NFL is, and you're going to have playoffs going into December.
Yeah, it'll almost have to be.
Like basketball and hockey, it'll just go on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah. They almost really should cut. I don't know what they're going to do.
Okay, we've covered an awful lot of ground here today.
We have, It's been fun.
Okay, I appreciate it. As I said to you last time we spoke, I value your friendship very highly.
Same here.
And we'll do another one in a week or 2.
We'll
okay, have a great Thanksgiving. I give my best to Marilyn. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices, and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.